Welcome, everyone. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. It's Monday Night Live. So, I already know what time it is. It is time for gems to be dropped, lives to be changed. If you don't know who I am, welcome to all those who are making their way in. Type in the chat. I can hear you. If you can hear me loud and clear. My name is Natasha Bryant. I'm super excited because tonight we're going to talk about how to find a dope therapist and how to make therapy dope. So I was initially just going to do this on Instagram, but not Instagram. Initially just going to do this on YouTube, but I think I want to open this up to my Insta Live audience because this is about mental health. This is about therapy. So I'm about to open it up unexpectedly. I'm about to open this up to the people in Instagram. Oh, God. Think they can see me. I think we're good on light. Here we go. What's up to all my people on YouTube? I'm logging on. I'm decided to go on to Instagram. So as you are logging in, welcome. Tell me in the chat where you're from. As you are coming in, tell me where you are coming from. What's up, YouTube? What's up, Instagram and YouTube? Yes, I'm live on both. Hopefully, you guys can hear and see me. I am super excited because I am going to be talking about how to find a dope therapist and making therapy dope. And the reason why I decided to do this, yes, welcome everyone. Surprise Insta, I decided to go live spontaneously instead of just doing it on YouTube. So I have this on my YouTube channel, Speed Like Transformation TV, and I also am having this on Instagram. So listen, for those who are watching this on Instagram, for those who are watching this on YouTube, tag a friend. If you know somebody who wants to learn more about therapy, if you know somebody who wants to ask an actual therapist questions about therapy, about the process of therapy, this is the show. This is time to do it. So tag a friend. Let somebody know that they need to be on here. My name is Natasha Bryant. For those who do not know me, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I own my own private practice in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Speak Life Transformation. I decided to start my own practice during the pandemic. And one of the reasons was because there are a lot of individuals, people of color, who are looking for Black therapists. And it's hard to find because, fun fact, there is only 4% of all the therapists that make up people of color. Therapists of color. There's not many of us. And also within our just whether it's Black community, Latin community, just people of color community, therapy, mental health is often not talked about. So we often don't seek it, but also it's hard to seek it when you don't see the professionals who are providing it look and sound like you, right? And so I want to use today to cancel all of those worries or misconceptions that are stopping people from seeking therapy. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So again, tag a friend, let somebody know this is for you. You got to see this. You got to watch this. There will not be a replay. So tag it. And at the end of this, the people who are watching, you will get access to a free resource guide. So if you're watching this via Insta, it's not going to be on a link. You'll privately get the access to this. So you will need to DM me free guide, a therapist. DM me therapist guide, and then I will send you the link to be able to get access to the therapy guide. So a little bit of my story. I decided therapy wasn't my initial call. I don't even know if it was a call initially, but I thought I was going to be a cosmetologist, y'all. Yes, that's what I thought I was going to be. And then I worked in the field when I was 17 as a shampoo assistant and realized, girl, this is not your ministry. And then I became, my senior year of high school, I became familiar with and introduced to the field of social work. And I was so intrigued by it, and just how it was helping people. And I decided that was something I wanted to do, specifically wanting to help Black and Brown people, just break the different stigmas and cycles and stereotypes that often we are up against, and just helping the community just become better and become their best selves, and not allow those things to stop them and block them. And so that's what led me into social work. And then I worked in the field, in school settings. And then I transitioned into doing my own private practice. And as a therapist, one of the things I'm often hearing from clients is the struggle of finding a therapist. The struggle is real, y'all. Let's keep it real. The struggle is real. One, trying to find a therapist that is available, and the struggle is real trying to find a therapist that actually meets your needs. If you've gone through this, if this has been a struggle of yours, put the struggle is real in the comments, in the Instagram chat, and the comments of the YouTube channel, right? Like, the struggle is real. Like, put that in there if there's something, if you've recognized that struggle, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else. And so I want to help. I can't eliminate the struggle, but what I want to do is I want to help you to be able to reduce the barriers, reduce the obstacles that kind of get in the way when it comes to finding a therapist. And what I first want to talk about is just those different misconceptions. So I would love to hear, this is going to be a back and forth, y'all. This type of conversation is going to be a back and forth for those who are watching this on YouTube, for those who are watching this on Instagram. This is going to be a back and forth dialogue. So what I first want to ask you is, what do you think are one of the blocks that stops people from seeking therapy? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Why do you think people do not seek therapy, or what is one block or struggle when you are seeking a therapist? So either or is, you can answer either question. Why do you think it's a struggle, or what's the block from getting to therapy, from people accessing or seeking therapy? And then what is a reason why people struggle with getting a therapist? So let me hear what you. Yes, the mental health stigma, for real. I know, one of the things that I recently put this in the chat, or not my chat, but a reel, was that within the Black community, it's we don't talk about our business. I can't say Black community, Latin community too. We don't talk about our business, right? It just stays within our family, right? Negative connotations about therapy. Yes. And I'm going to actually talk about that, because one of the reasons why people don't seek therapy is this belief there's only certain reasons why you seek therapy, when really there's a whole gamut of reasons why you can seek therapy. But often there's like this idea that you only seek a therapist for only certain times or certain reasons of your life, right? And I want to block that as well. And so yes, those are different reasons why people will, whether it's the stigmas, whether there's these connotations, whether there is, I tried and my therapist sucked. I've had a lot of that as well, where people are like, I had to take a break from therapy because my therapist wasn't great. It wasn't for me. Like, initially, they were just listening and talking. That was great initially, but then I needed like some tips. I need some action steps, and all the therapist was doing was just talking, and I really needed more than that. And that could be another reason why the therapist just wasn't a good fit. And so it could be a bunch of reasons why people do not seek therapy. And I would just, on behalf of all the therapists, apologize if you had a negative experience. Don't give up on us. One thing I have said to clients is that, yes, that definitely happens when we get a bad rep, if we have a bad therapy experience, for sure. One thing I tell my clients when they're looking for a therapist, I said, listen, when you're looking for a therapist, it's like when you're on search for a good barber or a good hairstylist, right? Like, you're gonna have to probably go through a few bad cuts. You might have to go through a few bad hairstyles initially, right? But once you find that barber, or once you find that stylist, yo, you're loyal to that stylist. You stay with them for life, right? Like, you're like, I'm not going nowhere else. This is my stylist. This is my barber. Like, I don't need to go nowhere else. I'm not even, I'll travel to go see my barber. I'll wait in line for my therapist, right? I mean, not for a therapist, my cosmetologist or my hairstylist, right? Like, once you find, you might have to go through a few bad cuts or a few bad hairstylists, but once you find that stylist, that barber, you're good, right? And honestly, that's how it is with therapists. You have to shop around, right? Shopping around is okay, and I'm going to teach you how to shop around. I'm going to teach you how to shop around to find the right therapist for you, so you don't waste your time with a therapist that doesn't fit your needs, and you're not wasting a therapist's time for where you're not going to be a good fit for them either, right? It is definitely a two-way street. And so I'm going to teach you some tips on how to, one, identify who you're, what makes a good therapist for you, so you don't waste your time, and questions to ask, right, when you have those consultations, so that you can make sure you're getting the right therapist and you're not wasting anybody's time, yours or the therapist. So let's first talk about the misconceptions. Yeah, we definitely want to talk about that, like what therapy, different reasons therapy is for. Yes, I see that in the chat. Let's talk about the misconceptions. Misconception number one about therapy is that I have my friends, I have my family, so I don't need a therapist. What do I need to go to a therapist for? I have my girls, or I have my fellas, like I got my brothers, like I have family. Like, we talk all the time. I go to them all the time about my issues. Why do I need to see a therapist? Let me tell you why you need to see a therapist. Because your friends, your family, they are coming from more of a biased end, right? They have more information about your life, they've been in your life, they're invested in a different way in your life, right? And so the type of advice, the type of feedback you're going to get is really going to be based on their own personal experience, and their own personal experience based on how they know you, right? And so you're not really going to get the level of insight that you would get from a professional. Let me tell you the type of insight you would get from a professional. So as a therapist, we go through tons of trainings on the brain. We go through tons of trainings on different types of therapeutic techniques and theories on how to analyze, how to understand the way relationships work, the way our brain works, the way our body responds to different emotions. I mean, we do a lot of training on just the human being function, right? And because of that insight, we are able to, when you are talking, we're able to make connections that you wouldn't be able to make connections. We've learned different techniques on how to hear what you're saying, but hear through that to be able to connect what you said earlier on how, and understand how that is causing what your current thought is having, and how that connects to your future thought, right? And so it's like we are able to make those connections and help you make those connections, right? Second thing is, we are a neutral party. We don't know your life inside and out, right? Only what you tell us, and based on the conversations that we get to know you. And we're not invested in a sense of where we have this biased point of view, because we've lived in a life, we've experienced experiences with you. So it's like I was there too. So I have this, I have my own experience. Like if you're talking to a family member, you're talking about a situation, they were there too, or they experienced something similar because you guys are in the same family, and they have their own biased opinion because they experience the same thing, or they have they have a relationship with the same person that you're talking about, right? And so with us as therapists, we have a neutral point of view. We're coming from a strictly biased point of view. And also we are trained. So another thing is training is we have learned how to check our own selves when we are maybe coming off we are recognizing how this is like maybe connects with our lives, or how it might be influencing our thoughts, how to be able to check that, so that we then respond, we then process what you're saying, a neutral point of view, so that you are getting the help that you need, because it's really all about you, not about me. And how many times have you talked to a family member or a friend and they made it about them when you sharing your story? That part, right? So a therapist is going to help you, and the therapist is going to give you some great action steps that's going to help you learn how to shift your life in a way to live the way you want to live, right? It's not just going to be allowing you just to vent and complain, or just talk it out, but also give you some really good feedback that's going to help you be able to live the life that you want to live. So that's why you need to see a therapist and not just talk to your friends. Another misconception that going to therapy, this is for those who are believers. If I go to therapy, then that means I don't believe in God. Not at all. Not at all. If you really are, if your faith is really important to you, right, and you really want to incorporate that into therapy, you totally can. And that's why you find a counselor or a therapist that is open to bringing faith-based principles, whether it's because they're the same believer as you, um, or they are actually their specialty specifically is Christian counseling, right? Where you can bring those faith-based principles and at the same time learn the science behind everything that you're going through. Because the therapy is going to talk to you about how your thinking is impacting how you think, your thinking is impacting how you feel, your thinking is impacting how you respond. It's going to help you understand how your relationships impact how you respond to people, how your experiences have influenced how you see the world, how you respond to the world, right? That's going to be a lot of how therapy is going to really help you grow and change in different ways and heal. And then if you wanted to bring in the biblical principles as well, then that's also going to help you then understand, okay, from the spiritual realm, right? And this is what I do with my Christian clients often. We bring in Bible scriptures, we bring in Bible stories. We also recognize from the spiritual realm how I actually do both. We talk about from the scientific realm, why you're thinking the way you're thinking or why different emotions are coming up for you. And then we shift it to the spiritual realm on how through the spiritual aspect of it, the supernatural aspect, how that's influencing how you're thinking and how you're showing up, right? And so now you get two and two. You can be able to use the word of God and we believe in, and also use the science of it all to help you heal and become delivered. And so, trust me, your faith will not be tested. If anything, it can be stronger, especially if you're incorporating it in your therapy process. All right, let's go into the next misconception. We're talking about misconceptions right now. Welcome to those who are joining us. You're gonna be able to get to understand why um, why therapy is really helpful, and how to find that dope therapist, right? Third one is therapy is only for people in a mental crisis. I'm gonna go over with you a list of different examples, and these are not just the only. I'm just gonna give you an example of different reasons why people can come to therapy. But you being in mental crisis is not the only reason. That is a reason, right? That is a reason why people see a therapist, is because they're in some type of mental crisis, whether they're harming themselves or others, they have some type of mental breakdown, right? And or if they have been diagnosed with mental health um, illness and that needs to be treated, right? And or they never been diagnosed, but they're like, whether it's the depression or anxiety is debilitating and it's impacting how they're showing up in the world and being able to get along with other people, being able to get complete tasks, etc., is impacting them to the point now where they need to get professional help. Yes, those are reasons why people do seek therapy, but they are not the only reasons why. To be honest, I don't even really have a whole lot of clients. I have a few. I don't have a whole lot. Most of my clients are not in a crisis. Majority of the clients I see are just dealing with day-to-day life stuff that we all deal with, and they just want somebody to talk about it, help them get through it, help them to process how do I deal with this better, help them to understand what they're going through and why they're going through it, why they're thinking the way they're thinking, so they can be their best selves. I've even had couples who've come to couples therapy not because they're in a crisis. That's another thing. You don't have to go if you're married or if you're dating. You don't have to go to couples therapy just because you're at the brink of breaking up or of a divorce. No, it could be in a proactive way. I met with a couple who just wanted premarital counseling. They wanted to be able to build a strong foundation before they got married. They were engaged and they were like, you know what, we just want to go to therapy just to make sure we're good so that we enter our marriage with a strong foundation. So it doesn't have to be a crisis for you to be in therapy. Another misconception is therapy is only about focusing on the negative problems in my life. Yes, you come to therapy with issues that you want to talk about. You come to therapy with presenting problems, right? Again, it doesn't be the only reason why you're coming, right? It doesn't be something crisis or a problem happening. But that's also not the only thing you have to talk about. It doesn't have to be this sad, heavy session every single session. You can talk about the good in therapy. That is a thing. Talking about the good things that are happening in your life in therapy, that is a thing. And that totally is okay. And so thinking about that and recognizing that it's not only about the dread and the dead that you're talking about in therapy. You could talk about the great things that are going on. You could talk about maybe not necessarily something good or bad, but you just talk about situation. There's not necessarily a bad thing or something that's really heavy in your life, but you just want to talk it through to figure out, okay, how do I handle this? I just want to be able to understand, like, what's the best way for me to do this? How can I make sure that I'm showing up as my best self, right? And so it doesn't have to be these heavy issues or these sad, depressing issues every single time in therapy. So those are some of the misconceptions. So now that we got rid of those misconceptions, like, let's just get that out of the way so you can be able to, like, clear your mind, right? When you're thinking about finding that therapist, or should I be seeing a therapist? Is it my time? I've been thinking about it, but I don't know. Or I thought about it a few months ago, but I'm fine now. I don't need to see a therapist because I'm good. That problem is over with. Should I still, like, those misconceptions that are making you believe, like, oh, I'm fine now, I don't need to see a therapist because the problem is gone? That's a misconception. You can still see the therapist to talk about why was it a problem in the first place, so you can be able to continue to live the life that you want to live. Now let's talk about why you seek therapy. That was one of the misconceptions, right? I just mentioned how you could be going to therapy, or one of the reasons that you don't go to therapy because you think that, well, the only reason why someone goes to therapy is because they're crazy, or they're having they're in some type of crisis, or they're facing some huge, massive problem, and that's the only they have past trauma that they need to work through. No, that's not the only reason. Let me tell you some reasons why people go to therapy. Sometimes people just go to therapy just to talk through some life transitions. And when you think about it, we go through a lot of life transitions. It could be um, a college student who has officially graduated from college, whether it's grad or undergrad, and now they're in adulthood, and they're like, yo, this adulting thing, oh, I wasn't ready for this. Like, I don't know what this thing is, but I don't like it. And they might want to go to a therapist and talk about, okay, how do I deal with the transition? I'm so used to having things done for me, or I'm so used to, like, just not having a whole bunch of bills. And now I'm like working full time, and I can't have time for my friends, or I got bills to pay. I got my own. This is a lot. I need to talk to somebody to figure out, how do I get through this? How do I be successful in this area? Because it's more stressful than I thought it would be, right? So that could be a transition. It could be a transition for someone who is now an empty nester. They, for so long, have been caring for kids, and now they have no one to care for. And they're like, what's what I do in my life now? Like, what do I do? I don't even know. I'm not used to this. And I recognize I feel a little sad because I'm not sure why I feel sad. I should be happy. The kids are out the house, but I feel sad. I feel alone. Like, how do I? So that could be a transition to talk about. It could be a divorce, a breakup, a long-term breakup can be another transition. It could be a job. Maybe you have lost your job, or maybe you have a new job that has more pressure or has more demands than you're used to. So it could be, listen, I can go on and on about life transitions, right? But any type of life transition could be a reason why you are seeking a therapist, just to be able to talk through how to deal with the transition, to have somebody talk to about the stresses that are coming along with it, right? Or the excitement and the fears of the success with the excitement, right? So those are different reasons. Another reason is, when you have like stress, that you recognize that if there's a level of stress that's disrupting how you're showing up. It may be as high as stress and anxiety and burnout, right? Or it might not be at an intense level, or it might be just more a moderate or mild level of anxiety that the stress is causing you. But where you just like recognize that I just feel stressed a lot. Like, there's a lot of things going on in my life. There's a lot of pressures I'm feeling, and it's causing me to feel stressful. It's messing up my sleep. I'm not sleeping right like I used to. My appetite has changed. I'm eating too much or not enough, right? I don't have a lot of energy. And I'm realizing that this stress is really impacting my mental health is really impacting my physical health, and I need to talk to somebody about it, right? That could be a reason why you want to seek therapy. Grief loss. You want to talk to somebody. There's a lot of therapists actually specialize in grief and loss. And so if you lost somebody, even if it's the fifth loss, matter of fact, if it's a fifth loss in a short span, in a short time span, then you definitely want to see somebody, because that's a lot. That's a lot of trauma right there. You're losing a lot of people significantly back to back. That's a lot on you emotionally. And talking to somebody through about all the different losses are important, right? Is very helpful. So grief and loss. Maybe you just want to gain a better understanding of your life, like how your life experience is impacting how you are today. Again, this could be some, and I have had a client like this where she didn't have anything really going on, like stressful wise, but she was just recognizing that I've been through a lot as a kid, like, just not necessarily full on trauma, but she's just had a very active, colorful life, right, with her family and just how her family functioned, traditions, things like that. And as she's getting older, she's gained more insight. Like, this really probably is the reason why I show up in relationships in this way. Or this might be the reason why I avoid certain things. And I just really want to understand why that is. I want to understand more about that. And so you could just be going to therapy just to understand how your life experiences has impacted your life, how it's showing up for you now. And if it's impacting you the way you want it to, right? Because if you're learning that insight, gain that self-awareness can then help you recognize, okay, is this something that I is how I want it to impact my life, or do I want to start shifting how I think now, right? Or how this has caused me to think and see the world. Do I want to keep thinking that way, or do I want to shift how that is how I see the world, because it's not helping me become who I want to be or live the life that I want to live. So you could just go to therapy just to be able to have some insight, gain some more self-awareness about yourself and your self-identity. Another reason why this is the final one that I have. Again, there's a ton more. If there's anybody in the chat, if you want to add to this list, please do share reasons why you have gone to therapy, or reasons why you've known for people to go to therapy. But another one, the final one I'm going to share, is just having a professional thought partner. You just want somebody that you can just talk to, bounce ideas off of, and help them really, and not even just, so it's different from a coach. Like a coach, that's more of like, kind of like, I have a goal and I'm trying to reach this goal. Help me get this goal, right? A therapist, though, is someone that can now help you dig into understanding, how your life, your experiences, scientifically, how your brain, right, how you're showing up is impacting you in different ways, right? And so even if you just want a therapy, you can just go to therapy just to have somebody to talk to, just to bounce ideas off of, just talk to, and just say, hey, like, I'm just, I decide I'm not sure if I want to take this job or not, and I'm realizing that I'm probably avoiding, and I really want, and I want to understand, why am I avoiding this job? Because it's something I wanted, something I prayed for, but now I'm like, I don't know if I want it, right? And a therapist can help you dig deep to understand, well, what is going on with that, right? Why are you avoiding? And then be able to help you connect dots to past experiences, whether it's past work experiences, whether it's relationship experiences, whether it's childhood experiences, of how that's impacting you now to really take this job that you prayed for and you asked for. You got it. And now you're like, I don't know if I want it. I'm scared, right? And you're like, I don't know why this is happening, right? A therapist can help you figure that out. And a therapist can figure it out. Yes, a professional confidant for sure, right? You got that professional thought partner. And the great thing about therapists is that by law, we're the best kept secrets. We're best at keeping secrets, because by law we have to abide by the confidentiality. Confidentiality is pretty much saying, by law, we cannot share your information. So even if you're married and your husband or your wife calls and says, hey, Natasha, what did you and my wife, or what did you and my husband talk about the other day? Because he started talking about something else, or I told him to go to therapy for this, but I don't think he's addressing that. Can you tell me what we're talking about? Because I get that too. And it's like, nope, I can't. And I would go right and I would tell, but not to be a tattler, but to say, like, hey, your wife or your husband called asking for information, I don't know if you want me to share anything, but I got to get your permission first. So do you want me to talk to her or him? Is it okay? And they're like, usually like, oh, hell nah, don't say nothing. That's usually the response. But and that could be anything. It could be whether your parent tried to call, if you're a young adult, if your doctor want to know information, we need to get your permission first. It's called release of information. We got your release that says in writing, not even just like, oh yeah, verbally. No. In writing, you have to say, yes, I'm okay with you talking to such and such. That's called a release of information. And with that information, then we can talk to the person. And even when we talk to the person, it's on an as needed basis. We're not going to tell them all your business. It really is just what you need to know, the bare minimum of the facts. We won't even go into detail everything you're saying. The only time that confidentiality has to be broken is if you're talking about harming yourself and or others, and for safety reasons, by law, we have to break that confidentiality. And that might be to a crisis center, or if you're talking about harming somebody else, informing that person, etc. So that's the only time that confidentiality has to be broken. But outside of that, we will not be telling your business. Now, I can't say that for your friends and your family when you try to tell them your business, which is another reason why you should talk to a therapist and not your friends or family, because you know your business is kept secret with us very well. So yeah, so those are reasons why you should seek therapy. So I do want to talk about some red flags with therapists, because sometimes I don't know if you guys have watched The Shrink on Apple. I think it's Apple. Is it Apple? Yes, The Shrink on Apple. And I forget the actor's name, but he is it's a practice, and they're providing therapy. And this guy, he like allowed his client to like live with him, because his client didn't have somewhere to live, because his client got kicked out of his house. So he allowed his client to live with him. He's out doing boxing with the client. Like, it looks very therapeutic to an extent, but it is ethically wrong. So some of the things, some red flags, if your therapist um uh if your therapist is open to hanging out with you outside of therapy, and you need to find another therapist. Ethically, we are not allowed to hang out with our therapist because it breaks the therapeutic relationship. That's what's needed. At the end of the day, our relationship is a therapeutic relationship, meaning like I'm your therapist and we are connecting in a therapeutic way for me to help you reach the goals that you want to live, and be the person you want to be, right? And in order for me to be that neutral person, right, that's in your life, that the neutral party, in order for us to be able to keep it on a therapeutic level, I can't become close to you in a personal way, because now I know you personally. So now it's a different type of relationship. It's no longer a therapeutic relationship. Now it's a personal relationship, right? And now that messes up the rapport. So now you might see me differently, right? You might not trust what I'm saying, because now you know we know each other personally. So you might be thinking differently. I might start thinking differently now because we see each other on a personal level. So you got to keep the therapeutic relationship. Another way to think about this is, if you ever had a friend who was your coworker and then they became your boss, and then all of a sudden they were like, yeah, I can't hang out with you like that at work because I'm your boss now. The dynamic is different. I have to give you orders, and I don't want you, and I don't want it to be this awkward thing where I'm trying to give you directions, or I'm trying to give you responsibilities, and then you think that because we're friends you could just not have to follow those things, or you feel like I'm attacking you because now I'm being more firm to you than chopping it up like a friend. So because of that, we can't be buddy at work, right? It's the same difference, right? And another thing that people don't know about therapy, and this is one takeaway I really want you to understand, because most therapists are practicing this, but many are not. Your therapist has to be licensed in the state that you're located in. Your therapist cannot provide you any type of mental health services if they're not licensed in the state that you live in. Okay. It's just like a doctor. A doctor cannot, or a lawyer cannot practice law, be your lawyer, if they are not licensed in the state that you're in, right? A doctor cannot provide surgery or medical services to someone unless they are licensed in that state, right? And so therapists are the same exact way. So when you are seeking therapy, especially with virtual, because this wasn't really an issue prior to pandemic because everything was in person, but now you can see a therapist virtually. But your therapist has to be licensed in the state that you're in, right? Because again, they had to take a board certified test showing that they met those state standards. Every state has their own laws and bylaws, ethics and standards. And so that therapist had to take the license for that state to then be certified by that state saying that you can practice in this state. So fun fact on that one. So as you are looking for a therapist, make sure they are licensed in the state that you're in. All right. So I would love to hear questions too. Feel free to put questions in the chat if you have questions about finding a therapist, if you have questions about seeking therapy, if you have questions about therapy in general, like what's therapy like, what's the process. Feel free to put that in the chat for those who are on Instagram. Feel free to put that in the chat for those who are watching via YouTube. I would love to be able to help you because listen, I want to help remove any and all blocks that are stopping you or could be stopping you from finding a dope therapist. Now, for those who are watching, you'll be able to get a free guide. Yes, a free guide. All you have to do is, for those who are on Instagram, you can put free guide, DM me, therapist guide. DM me the phrase therapist guide, and then I will send you the link. For those who are watching on YouTube, I will put the link in the chat. All right, I'll put the link in the chat. Instagram is too much going on trying to do that. So I'm just gonna put that. Just DM me the words therapist guide, and I will send that to you. So yeah, so one of the other things that I want you guys to recognize when finding a dope therapist is that in order to find a therapist that's right for you, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know, what am I looking for? What do I want in a therapist? And taking away any of the stigmas about finding the therapist you want. Taking away stigmas and taking away any judgment. Some reasons why people do not find the right therapist because they feel like they're being too biased if they're saying, I only want to see a male therapist, or I only want to see a Black therapist, and they feel some level of guilt. No, that's what you want. That's what you want. Listen, if it's just like when you go see a doctor, right? Like if you recognize, like, I want to see a certain type of doctor for my health, for this treatment that I need, get that type of doctor. And you're picking that type of doctor for a reason, right? Like you either done your research or you recognize that with this background, this doctor is going to be best fit for your needs. And that's what this is all about too. So things to think about. And this is all going to be on that resource guide. So make sure you get the resource guide, because I actually have my dope therapist profile, and in that profile you can be able to answer these questions on the resource guide. So the first one is thinking about the gender. We'll talk about this: gender and ethnicity. It's okay if you want the therapist to look like you. That is okay. And it's also okay if you don't have any preferences. If you're like, listen, I don't care, just give me somebody because I just need somebody to talk to, that's fine too. But I challenge you to be intentional about the type of therapist you are looking for, because that way you'll have your needs best met. So gender, ethnicity. Think about if there's any type of specialties that you're looking for. So if you're looking for a therapist that specifically specializes in couple counseling, for example, or someone who specializes in a type of treatment, someone who specializes in a specific topic like, grief and loss, or there is trauma and veterans, right? Or athletes, right? People who understand anxiety for athletes, right? Like if there's a specific area, specialty That's okay too. Think about that. If there's special, and it also, if there's a specific background, like they might not have a specialized in it, but they're trained or they're familiar with a type of technique or a type of topic or subject, right? Those are things you can think about too. Payment. There's a lot of therapists that do insurance only. There's some that do payment out of pocket only, which means you don't use your insurance. You pay full directly on your own. There is therapists who do both. There's some therapists have a sliding scale. There's some therapists that if you pay out of pocket, you can use your FSA or HSA card that's through your insurance. So really think about, okay, payment, also virtual or in person. Some people are like, I only want to, I don't want to go into the office. I just want to have a virtual session. Some people really want in person. They want to go, they want to see their therapist in face to face. So thinking about that. So those are some of the examples of what is on that resource guide to help you find the therapist that you need. All right. And then we have one other tip is look for therapists that have a free consultation. Now, you don't only have to go to therapists that have a free consultation, but if you see therapists that have, let me reframe that. If you see that therapist offers a free consultation, take advantage of that, because that conversation is intentional. The therapist is offering that free consultation to make sure that they're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for them. And so that's a perfect time and opportunity for you to go there with questions. And in the free therapist guide, there are questions that you can ask. There are, it's a checklist. So in the checklist is giving you different tips on how to make therapy dope. And also is giving you some questions you can ask for a consultation. So ask questions. Like, think ahead of time. Like, what do I want to know about this from this therapist specifically? And you can also get that from your profile, because then you can ask them, like, do you know this type of treatment? Are you familiar with this? Or do you have experience with this, right? Or do you do virtual or in person? Or, what kind of payment do you do? Like, those are all types of questions you can ask at the consultation. So your profile can help you, but also added some other questions you can ask too that can help you really make sure this is the right therapist for you. And also when you're asking those questions, it can really help the therapist recognize and understand if you're the right fit for them. And then ways to make therapy dope. So we're gonna wrap up with this one. Ways to make therapy dope. So how you make therapy? Well, one is before you even go. So this is a virtual. Before you even get ready for your session, before you even start your session, virtual. There's a few things. One, make sure you're in a private location. It's gonna be really hard for you to be able to focus. It's really gonna be hard for you to be able to talk freely if you are not in a private space. Now, we also know that everybody doesn't have the privilege of having a private space. So if you don't have a private space, then make sure you have headphones that you can use to at least block out. They might be able to hear you, but they can't hear the therapist. So there's some form of confidentiality. Or if there's a lot of noise, if you're like outside or you're at a cafe, where you can be able to block out the sound so you can have a private discussion. All right. Also, make sure that your camera is in a way where the therapist can see you and you have good lighting. The way you do that is you make sure your camera is in front of the light. So if you are in the window, for example, you would be facing the window and the camera would be in front of the window, right? Another thing is, make sure you have a glass of water and some tissues. You're talking for an hour, so you might get parched, you might get thirsty, and then tissues. Because listen, therapy can be sad sometimes, so make sure you have a box of tissues with you so that you can be able to, use them if you need them. So those are some tips for when you're setting up for like a virtual session. Now, when you are in therapy, here's some tips on how to make therapy dope in the moment, right? Come to therapy with a notebook, a journal, whether this is in person or virtual, where you can write down some of those aha moments. There are going to be times where your therapist is going to be dropping gems and or you're going to have some insight. You're like, wow, like that a thought comes up or you process something. And when you write that stuff down, then you're able to reckon and go back to that later and really have that time to like reflect on what was discussed. Remember with those different moments so you can be able to use those or apply those outside of the therapy office. So yeah, Bring a notebook. Another way to make therapy dope is make sure you're honest with your therapist about what's working and what's not working. And this is all on the checklist. So again, if you are watching on Instagram, if you are watching on YouTube, you will be getting a free resource guide that's going to have all this stuff on here. It's going to help you find that dope therapist and make therapy dope. So all you do is just DM me. For those who are watching on Instagram, DM me the word therapist guide, and the phrase therapist guide, and I will be able to send that to you, the link for you to get access to that. So yeah, make sure, like, while you're in therapy, be honest with your therapist. Let your therapist know what's working, what's not working. There's been many times I've been in sessions, and after once I probed and asked like what's working, what's not working, they were so appreciative because they felt nervous about telling me themselves. It's like, no, it's okay. It's okay to be honest with you. We want that because we want to make sure this is working for you. At the end of the day, we want this to work for you. You're paying for this. This is your sessions. We want to make sure this is working for you. So be honest about what's working, what's not working. Ask questions in sessions. Your therapist is going to give you a lot of information sometimes, and sometimes they might not give you any like immediate feedback. They might just be more so allowing you to reflect and talk out what you're saying, right? And so it's okay for you to jump in and ask your own questions, right? Ask them to help you gain whatever insight that is that you're seeking, right? So ask your therapist questions even in session. And another way to make therapy dope is turn your phone off. That might sound so simple, but especially virtual, you get really distracted. Your computer, if you're using your computer to do your sessions, and you have an Apple, a Mac, for example, and your Mac is connected to your phone, and you get all these dings and rings and blings and everything else, or your emails are popping up on your computer or even on your phone. If you're in person and your phone is going off, it's going to be really hard to be able to focus and concentrate. So make sure you turn off all your notifications, silence your phone, silence your computer, so you can be able to really focus and be able to hear and receive what the therapist is saying. Also, just say emotionally, you can be able to tap in. It's gonna be hard for you to be able to tap in to your own inner thoughts if you have a lot of stuff going on in the session. So those are some examples of how to make therapy dope in the session. Again, for those who are just joining me on Instagram, there will be a free resource guide to the viewers. The way you access that resource guide is that you will DM me the phrase therapist guide, and I will send you that link. And those who are watching on YouTube, you can be able to get it. I'll put in a link in the chat. Now, post therapy, you don't realize this, but there's work that needs to be done outside of therapy office. So therapy doesn't just start and finish in your hour session and then it's done and then it restarts again a week later or 2 weeks later when you have sessions again. No. Therapy is an ongoing process. It's ongoing. You know what? The way I think about it, and the analogy just came up. It's like when you were in school, right? You had your actual classes, whether it's college, actual high school, right? You had your classes. But then in order for you to really retain information, in order for you to grow in that knowledge, right, you had to do work outside of the class. It was homework, you had to do papers, you had to do projects, etc., to really apply the skills that are being taught, to really access the information, do your own reading, do your own research to access the information, to understand it, right? Therapy is the same exact way. Your therapist, and some therapists do give quote unquote homework after every session. Some do not. I don't give homework after every session. I don't really call it homework. I call it a challenge. I'll challenge my clients to try something new based on what we talked about, to try a new skill. Or if I taught a skill, I'll challenge them to use that, to practice using that skill outside the office. I don't do that every single session, but I do that when it makes sense. And there are some therapists that do it every single session. And so when we challenge you, do the challenge. Do the challenge. You will find yourself healing a lot. I want to say faster, but you'll find yourself having more benefits from therapy, and you'll be able to see the progress a lot better because you're actually applying what you learned in therapy outside the therapy office. That's really what it's all about. It's about applying what you've learned, the insight you've gained in therapy to the actual world that you're living in. Because therapy is a safe place. Like, it's safe. It's just you and your therapist. There's no judgment. You talk about issues. You don't have to actually face the issue. You're just talking about them. All the stresses of the world are gone. You close the door, whether it's close the door of where you're at virtually, or you close the door actually in the therapist's office, and it's all good. It's a safe environment. And then you open that door, you go back into the world, and the light hits you immediately. Sometimes life hits you right away. There's been times where I had a client where they were like, as soon as the session ended, I lied to you not. What we just talked about, I had to deal with that immediately after a session. And they would tell me about a situation I had to face that was directly connected to what we were talking about in the session. So sometimes life just comes right at you and makes you, oh, that's what you're talking about? Well, let's put that to practice now, right? And so you have to practice. That's how you're able to see your growth. That's how you're able to learn and grow, elevate your healing. So one of the post therapy techniques or strategies is definitely do the therapy, or do the homework. Another one is, and this is something that a lot of clients forget to do or don't think to do. When things come up, but because a week, there's a lot happen. A lot can happen in a week. And then if you see your therapist only twice a week, a lot can definitely happen in 2 weeks. And you might have saw your therapist on a Monday. Something happened on a Tuesday. You don't see your therapist till the following Monday or 2 Mondays later, right? You're going to forget. So days went by, and now the issue that you was like, oh, I really want to talk to my therapist about that, because that was something that I really want to like work through or talk through. And then you forget all about it by the time you have a session, because that's normal, right? You end up forgetting. And so it's important to write it down. If you have your own therapy book, therapy journal, or you're like in your own on your phone, in your memo notes, write down topics I want to talk to my therapist about, areas of where I want to talk to my therapist about, something that came up that I want to talk to my therapist about, right? Write it down, so that when you come to therapy, you have something to talk about, that so you end up using your therapy session in a very intentional, fruitful way. And then 2, you don't have to figure out, what am I talking to my therapist about today? I have no idea. You like 30 minutes before your session, you're like, Dad, what am I going to talk to her about? What do I want to talk to him about today? You don't have to worry about that, because you don't wrote things down throughout the week. So that's how you can maximize your time with your therapist as well. So those are, again, I have more of those tips and checks on the checklist for how to make therapy dope. So again, DM me therapy resource if you want a copy of that. Now, last but not least, I want to talk to you about is right after the session, because sometimes in the session it could be a lot emotionally. You might have talked about something that was very pulled out a lot of you emotionally. You might feel emotionally drained, or you might still be recovering emotionally from it. You might have to go to work afterwards. You might have to tend to your family afterwards, right? You got life. Listen, life is still life. And like I said, you open that door and now you go back into the world, right? And so you might need a moment to really regather yourself, right? So some I put in there in the checklist is also ways to regulate your emotions. Some things to do is take a moment, like 5 minutes. I've done this for clients as well, because sometimes I've had to add, because we as therapists, we cannot keep you for the entire for a session until you are calm now to go back to work, right? Unless you're like in a crisis, right? That's different. But if we were having a session and you were upset, we'll do some grounding things to kind of help you kind of gather yourself, but you might still need more time. And we don't have the ability to give you more time because your time is up, right? And so ways that you can continue to work through to make sure that you are able to get back to just being able to deal with whatever responsibilities you have in that day. One thing is, write down your thoughts. Take like 5 minutes to just write down what you were thinking, what you're feeling in that moment, what thoughts came up in therapy. Journal that so you can be able to get it out and process it. Another one is listening to some music, or if you have your own type of like uh, guided meditation, or listen to a certain speaker that helps you feel relaxed and feel calm or motivated or empowered, whatever that is, then listen to that. And then another one is doing some mindfulness activity. So, like I said, guided meditation can be a mindfulness activity. The five senses, I don't know if you're ever aware of that, but it's like, what do you see? What do you hear? Five things you see, three things you hear. That exercise is a grounding exercise. So things that can help, deep breathing, things that can help you really bring yourself back to the present. Because maybe during that moment, it was taking you to places where memories or emotionally you're in a place, and now you just gotta bring yourself back to it. Where am I at now? How do I recenter myself now? So those are some examples of that. So again, all of that is in the chat, or not chat, sorry, the therapist guide. And so I'm gonna put that for, again, my viewers who are on Instagram. It will be available to you by DMing me. So just DM me the phrase therapist guide, and I will DM that to you. Now, in this guide too, I mean, hold up, wait a minute. The biggest part, yo, I got a list of some dope therapists, y'all. I lied to you not. Like, I reached out to therapists and they were like, hey girl, me. I reached out to therapists because listen, one of the barriers to finding a dope therapist is finding one that's actually available. You might actually find a dope therapist, but they're not accepting clients. That part, right? Somebody might refer you to a therapist that their therapist or a therapist they know of, and they are not available. And then you don't know where else to go, right? And so I specifically filled this resource guide with therapists who say, yes, I am, or we are, because they're the part of a practice, are currently accepting clients. Yes. And I have 3 pages. 3 pages of therapists across the country. So not even just those that are in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area where I'm from, but therapists are all the way in Cali, y'all. I mean, when I say across the country, all like literally all the way on the West Coast, I have clients. Not clients, but I have therapists. So if so make sure, yes, get the resource guide. Listen, this is not something that you need to sleep on. Get the resource guide. And I'm one of those dope therapists. I am currently accepting new clients. So if you're looking for a therapist, you are in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, and you're looking for a dope therapist, I'm your girl. A little bit about what I do. I specialize in anxiety and depression. I also do couples therapy. I see teens, girl teens, 14 and up. So I do therapy for teens as well. And you know, my approach is really kind of the way I'm talking to you guys is how I talk to my clients, to be honest. Like the vibe you're getting right here, the energy you're getting right here is what you're gonna get from my clients. But one of the things that I love to do is I do a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, which means that I help you understand how your thoughts are impacting how you feel and then impacting how you respond. And then with that, with you knowing and understanding how your thoughts impact how you feel, then you can understand what I need to do to change my thoughts so that I can show up. I can respond the way that I actually want to respond. And I can also understand how to regulate and control my emotions. But not only that, I then also go into more of that psychodynamic where because cognitive behavior therapy will give you those action tips. So I'm definitely one of those action therapists that will give you some action steps. Like I said before, I'll give you some challenges at the end of sessions to get you to practice using those skill sets. But I also dig deep. I help you understand, well, why am I thinking this way in the first place? Like, what has happened in my life? It doesn't have to go all the way back to childhood. It could just be young adulthood. It could be 5 years ago, right? But what has happened in my life that's causing me to think the way I'm thinking? What has happened in my life that's causing me to show up the way I am showing up? And I will challenge you. So, yes, I am a therapist that allows you to talk and I'll just sit back and listen because talk therapy is part of therapy. But I'm definitely a therapist that's going to be challenging you in the moment. You may say something like, let's pause right there. You just said something that actually connects with what you said last session, what you said just now. And I want you to think about how this is influencing or impacting what you just said, or how this connection makes this connection. And so I will challenge you. I'll say some things you probably like, dang, you really had to put me out. Yeah, I have to put you out there because I want you to listen. We don't got time to waste. That's what my clients all that. We don't have time to waste. Like we got life to live. So I'm gonna be challenge you in a way that's gonna be helpful, right? I'm not gonna challenge you past your your, I'm not gonna say comfort zone, because it's probably gonna be past your comfort zone, but not past your limit. Um, but that's gonna help you really progress in the way you want to progress. So for those who are on Instagram, now that's definitely in my link, my bio. You can just go right to my bio, click the link in my bio. You can be able to get access to the therapy inquiry form. Fill that out, and you get a free consultation with me, a 15 to 20-minute consultation, where again, the whole point of that conversation is for us to feel like, to see, are we a good fit for each other? Because not just about you being a good fit for me, but it's also about maybe you're a good fit for you. We gotta make sure it's a good match, right? In order for it to work. So you can go into my bio to check that out, to start working with me. I have openings, I have evening openings, and I have day openings as well. So yeah, and then again, if you're on here, for those who are on YouTube, I already put the link in the chat. For those who are on Instagram, again, DM me the phrase therapy guide, and I will send you that therapy guide. It's fillable as well, so you can use it on your phone and you can fill it out. And there's active links. So every therapist gave me their website or has given me like a link to their Psychology Day profile. Those links are active, so all you have to do is like click the link on there and I'll get you there. I mean, listen, and we're talking about that 4% of Black folk. Majority of the list on here, those 3 pages I have, are all Black therapists. And there's some Black therapists in there, Latin therapists. Listen, so for all my people of color who've been struggling with trying to find a therapist, listen, a therapist of color that looks like you, I got you. There's child therapists on there, family therapists, Christian therapists, therapists that do EMDR. So if you're looking for a therapist, a Black therapist that focuses on, or a therapist of color that focuses on EMDR, does that type of treatment, that is on there. Brain spotting. Listen, don't sleep on the resource. Okay, don't sleep on the resource. Any questions? And listen, any question you guys have about finding a therapist, any question you have about finding a therapist, any question you guys have about what therapy is like, the process of therapy, hit me up. Because listen, you may not be able to access a therapist like this. We don't go live a lot because it's not something that we do. This is not, most therapists, we're not really that comfortable. We're good with the one-on-one, but live in effect, like, hey, most of the therapists are not really into that. So, get it while it's hot. If you have any questions about therapy, again, click the link in my bio to work with me, and or coaching. I do coaching as well. So for those women who are newly entrepreneur women who really want to like elevate their business, elevate how they're showing up as a business woman, right? Then my mindset coaching is just for you, because that's all about helping you take on that mindset that's going to help you go after, take those risks, those career risks, without that doubt or that fear stopping you, be able to overcome all that so you can be able to elevate your business the way that you want to. And so I have the coaching as well. Yes, I have a few male therapists. Yes, I have male therapists. I'm not sure where you're from, but I have a male therapist that's in the Philly area. I have a male therapists that are in the I think Illinois and Massachusetts. I mean, yes to your answer. I mean, yes to your question. Yes, there are male therapists on the list for sure. Yes. Any other questions? And the resource guide is free. So even if you just want to get it, just to get it, you can check it out yourself. It's free. There's no fee for the resource guide. Like, I create this for free, again, because I want to remove those barriers. Like, listen, let's stop suffering in silence, right? Let's stop. And also, here's another misconception. Therapy is expensive. I'm gonna be upfront about my fee. My fee is $155 per session. I do not accept insurance. $155 is, to be honest, is a normal rate for out of pocket. $155, $135. Some do even more than that, right? But if you think about it, how much was the last thing you paid for? What was it? Your hair done, your shoes, your outfit? hair, makeup, and outfit. The last meal you had when you went out for dinner, right? Like when you think about it, you end up spending that amount of money a lot of times in other areas. So you have to think about, it's not even about, is it too much? It's like, is it worth, am I worth that? Right? If I'm really trying to invest in a quality level of therapy, where I have a dope therapist that really is giving quality work, right? And that's going to help me change my life forever. Am I worth that type of investment? Because if you feel like if you believe if you're worth that type of investment for other things, like you'll drop 200 real quick for something else, or you'll drop 150 for something else real quick because you feel like you deserve that in that moment. And that's a short-term thing. That's something short-term. But think about therapy, that's a lifetime investment. And there's therapists who offer sliding scale. So not everybody can afford it. True. Facts. And there are insurance companies that you can use your insurance. But either way, it's an investment. Because sometimes, to be honest, sometimes insurance is the copay. You might as well just go out of pocket at this point with the way these copays are recently. But think about like what's an investment for you? Is your mental self-care worth that level of investment? So I hope this was helpful. Again, spread the word. There won't be a replay. I won't be putting this back. I won't be saving this onto my my feed, but it will be available on my YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to watch it, then you can watch it on my YouTube channel. Again, that's Speak Life Transformation TV on YouTube. So nowadays YouTube has handles too. So you go youtube.com/ at Speak Life Transformation TV. And that's how you can access that. Subscribe so you can be aware of when I go live. Again, I go live on Mondays at 7 p.m. I can't wait to see you guys again. God bless. Make sure you be safe, be bold, and speak life.